Hi, this is Joe with Youngblood Family Farm. Welcome to the Sugar Bush as we talk about planting a maple syrup season. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the maple syrup process of turning it from sap into syrup, and just more planning, not how to, but more planning for that season. Because it's better if you can plan than to be hurrying and try to catch on to what you're seeing other people doing. So let's talk. The first step is about the tree. I'm not going to tell you how to identify a tree. A lot of great tutorials and videos out there to do that, and I'm not the guy. We're a couple days before Christmas and we don't have snow, so this is a great time to be out doing this right now. So the first thing is you need to locate maple trees, preferably hard maple trees. Our first season I did 7 taps at our old property, and 5 of them were soft maples. So you're going to have a lower sugar content. It's going to be a lot more work. You're not going to feel like you got as far. So the first step is locate a hard maple tree. The second one is you need to own the tree, or have permission from your neighbor or farmer or whoever you end up tapping. I know in some areas you can actually lease it from the state, what have you. You need to have permission, and if you do get permission from that person, show appreciation. Bring them some syrup back, take them some cookies, spend time talking to them, hearing their stories. Show appreciation. The third thing is it should be a healthy tree. I see some trees that are just about done rotting and guys are tapping them. I guess that's fine. I've got some trees here that are going to have a couple years off because they haven't produced very well. But this is just a very simple gauge that you can use. You know, the rules say 10 inches or 12 inches diameter. This is a sheet of plywood that has a 10-inch opening in it. Very simple to make, and you can see that, you know, 10 inches minimum at waist level to put one tap in. I think it's like 22 inches to have 2 taps, and then on up. I've got a few 2-tap trees here, no more though. Most of my woods are pretty young. So recap this first section. Locate a hard maple tree, make sure it's yours or have permission, then make sure it's a large enough diameter. So in this next little section, I'm behind the camera now, but these are the 3 methods that I use to draw the sap out of the tree. And there's many vendors that you can use to access this stuff. I use Sugar Bush Supplies, which is here in Michigan. But talk about some of the methods that I use. My very first year, I built these little taps out of hard maple, and they're silly as can be, but it was I looked at what was online and thought, hey, how can I make these? I put a little catch on the front so that I could use these in milk jugs, and that seemed to work. You know, you just gotta kind of clean them out and dry them out, and they really stay pretty clean. It's you know, maple's a tight grained wood, and so it doesn't seem to swell quite as easily as, you know, a more open grain or softer wood would. The second one that I have quite a few of now is, this is an Atkinson. Some birds going here. And this is a stainless steel tap. They come with the hooks, and these work out really well. They clean up really nicely, and I've used these quite a bit. And they do sell aluminum ones. They sell some cast ones, but I like the stainless. The stainless do get dinged up though after a while from hammering them in. You gotta manipulate them a little bit, and And then the last thing I have here is I accumulated a few of these, and these are just plastic. I got 2 of them that run to about a 3-foot tube or so, and I use these on my larger trees, and then I run those into 5-gallon pails. So let's talk about what we actually collect in. So once you've actually drilled a hole and you've put your tap in, you need to have a device to catch the sap. And these are buckets that I got during my first couple years. They're about a 3-gallon bucket. What's nice about them is they're fairly translucent, so you can actually see how much sap is in them. And so that's really helpful. They work really well with this spile, where it actually will hook and then it'll set up against a tree, and that works out really, really well. However, these I think cost in between $5 and $6 a piece, and once you start getting some taps, that's pretty expensive. And so what I started going to, what I started using was these white buckets, and I think I actually paid about 75 cents a piece for these buckets, and they came with a white lid. But a lot of times you can get icing buckets from Myers or Walmart or delis, and you get those for free. All I did here was I drilled a small hole with a hole saw, and get it at the right height, and once again, you've got a bucket that collects the sap for you. Lids. Talk about lids really quick. Once again, this is a lid that you can buy. You can buy these MB cover, and they go with these buckets really well. They also will fit a standard 3-gallon icing pail. Buckets aren't necessary, but you get twigs and leaves and all sorts of bugs and whatnot in the sap, and so a lid is very helpful. I've seen guys where they will use just the lid that comes with these, and they will drill their hole large enough and they'll just hook it like that, if that makes any sense. And then you don't actually need you don't need a special flip up lid, and so that's quite helpful. So let's talk the next step. For most of us, the next step is where are you going to store the sap? Because you pull the buckets off the trees and then you have nothing to collect the sap with. So you have to have a kind of an in-between storage. And the way that I did it when I first started was I just went to the stores and I just bought 20-gallon totes. They did well. You wouldn't stack them on top of each other. They weighed quite a bit, and they're almost impossible to move once you had the sap in it. But they contained it, and they contained it pretty cleanly. I have since switched over to these 30-gallon barrels, and I was able to buy a mess of these for about $5 a piece. In fact, right now this one is one that I actually use this one for keeping feed in. But they do have these snap lids that you can put the snap lid around here. They're gasketed, and they work out really well for storage. And so if you see any of my other syrup videos, you will see that sap is in there, and great place to store it. If you got to put those in the back of the truck and the trailer, they work out really well. I know this sounds a little silly, and most wouldn't think about this, but how are you going to keep the sap cool in between boiling times? On my north face, I usually have a pretty good load of snow even into the syrup season as it comes off the barn. And I could use this to actually keep my sap pretty cool. Last season we were up in 65 degrees during the day and sap was actually spoiling. And so then how are you going to keep it cool? Ideally you wouldn't hold on to it very long. You wouldn't keep it more than a day at a time. But we all have jobs and we have things to do. And so, but that's something to think about, you know. Where's your coolest place to store the sap? And yeah, where you going to store it, and then how are you going to keep it cool? If you the final thought, and I apologize if it's dark. I'm in the barn here, and it's really tough to really actually see what's happening here. But this is my little barrel evaporator. I will link a clip. One of my very first YouTube videos was a very silent picture of my evaporator working. But you can very easily build an evaporator, or if you don't want to build an evaporator, you can use turkey fryers. A lot of guys will use a turkey fryer. On propane, it's not very efficient, but it's doable. So I just thought I'd finish up this video hanging out with the chickens here. Now, you building an evaporator and you boiling on propane probably doesn't seem to make sense for most people. And I get that. That doesn't make sense at all. Another thing that you can search out is you might have a producer in your neighborhood. Ask around. Go to the farm store, go to the grain mill, ask around any place that sells equipment. Put it out on Craigslist. I know there's a local Amish family that does, I think, a 50-50 split with you. So 50% of the syrup that they produce off that sap, you get back. You might have to give them a bottle or a mason jar or something, but you can do that. I know another guy in the area is a 60-40 split. To get syrup, that's pretty good, even if you got to truck it. Now that's not going to be your syrup. It's going to be a shared syrup. Now here on our little farm, our syrup is our syrup. It came from our trees. It gets stored in our basement, and that's neat. That's neat in all of itself. So these are just some of the tips. These are things that I think about even in December as I'm planning. I'm marking trees, trying to figure out, okay, exactly how many taps do I want to do, because when it's season, scrambling's not an option because you're already scrambling enough, tapping and collecting and moving the sap and boiling the sap. So don't hurry up and decide you want to do it in March. So these are some of my tips, kind of lengthy, but I'm passionate about this, and I don't see why other people aren't doing this. So have a great day. Probably won't get on here again. Have a Merry Christmas to all my students, subscribers, friends, family. Have a really Merry Christmas. Thanks for joining me today. Bye now.